Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Alex Treadway. I'm an associate publisher and vice president with Government Executive Media. And I'm joined on the stage today by Dan Gohl, who's the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer for HP. Dan started in physics research. He moved to education from the classroom all the way to the state agency, deploying technologies and learning. He's been watching the sessions this morning as you have, so I'm really interested to hear, with your background in research in physics, tell us your thoughts on what you've seen so far.
So thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's wonderful to be here. There's nothing harder than being the person before lunch other than being the person before lunch after everyone's been told it is lunchtime. So let me just begin by acknowledging that. So a little bit about my background. Yes, I did start in physics. That's my undergrad degree. I then went to graduate school, started doing 8-dimensional rotating black hole theory, lots of differential equations, moved into quantum chaos. I wasn't satisfied with the big scale, so I went as small as you could get, and then did a little bit of time at the Princeton Physics Plasma Laboratory, the PPPL, looking at plasma energy, which we were told would be 20 years down the line 20 years ago. And today we're still being told it's 20 years away. But in reflecting on today's conference, what has really come out to me is that our defense, as well as our ability to be offensive, really is built on our understanding of basic units. And I mean basic units from the individual soldier, sailor, airman, astronaut, all the way to the individual device, the individual electron, the individual photon. And we build up systems from there. But that is kind of what physics did with statistical mechanics. We started by understanding what are the individual atoms in a gas. At the same time, there was a whole group of other people approaching it from the other end. They were approaching it from the large scale end and then deducing what was going on. Thermodynamics with pressure and temperature and heat met statistical mechanics because it's all describing the same system. That is what we in the technology deployment realm need to be able to do for the commercial space as well as for the defense space. We need to be able to take our basic understandings, and we heard about, directed energy weapons or RF signals versus laser, which is all part of the electromagnetic spectrum. We've got to be able to know what can be engineered today to prepare us for tomorrow's potential. And this is really interesting in a world where all the devices are both nodes of operation as well as data feeds in the era of the Internet of Things. And we have all of this coming together. And what HP is trying to do is to devise and deploy. We talk about architecting, innovating, and equipping our Department of Defense with devices that are the least energy intensive per processing event and the most secure. And we need to be able to deploy those. So our partner today here is AMD. They've done an extraordinary job of beginning to build chips for us that are going into our neural processing units. I know we're going to touch on that in just a few minutes in terms of what an NPU on an endpoint device means. So those are some of my thoughts on how physics meets Dan meets today's Defense One event.
Thank you. How would you say these emerging technologies both challenge and enable the engineering of innovation?
Let's return to this issue of artificial intelligence and neural processing units. So you don't need an NPU in order to do AI. You don't need it to do machine learning, but you're wasting a lot of energy, producing a lot of heat, which produces a lot of noise, particularly on fan-cooled devices. We need devices that run silent. We need devices that run cool. We need the end user experience to be comfortable. And the way in which we are taking the engineering of that, partnering with our chip manufacturers, and we're partnering with all the main ones to deliver devices that are able to do that. It's not just about processing, right? So we'll talk about communications, which is really a machine learning issue. A little over a year ago, HP acquired the company called Poly, which was Polytronics, and before that, Plantronics, which was what put the communications to the Apollo missions. But now it's folded into our peripherals because we believe the machine learning capabilities that HP has, meeting the engineering specs that Poly has about audio and visual, are going to be able to both do acoustic fencing, which we've already deployed, do noise cancellation, and be able to do individual to whole group scanning, where machine learning is picking out who, what, where, and how to focus and highlight what's going on in an event so that the immersive experience is customized to the appropriate context of the person who's going in it. We're doing a lot around new issues. You know, we fixed an issue that is plaguing a lot of people years ago about technology security by our approach to BIOS. We put a gold separate copy of the BIOS on our devices. So if somebody hacks your BIOS, all you have to do is restart and you're refreshed. Quantum technologies, the ability of optimization, and understand that quantum tech is not a replacement for current chip-based architectures. It has a particular type of problem, which is the optimization problem, which it solves really fast and really well. But it will break prime number-based cryptographic systems. When that happens, all of our devices, all of our networks will be open to whoever has that technology. Starting this year, we are deploying devices with modified BIOSes to prevent, or at least mitigate, that kind of attack coming down the line. The technology to do it is on the horizon. Will it be 2029, 2031? We don't know, but it's coming. We need to make sure that our DoD partners, as well as the commercial space, are taking steps to secure their BIOS, their operational systems in the silicon world against the quantum pieces. There's so much going on in photonics in terms of, instead of using electrons, which have both charge and heat issues, using photons in order to do this has a lot of capabilities. Quantum computing will not occur on edge devices, on endpoint devices, but it is possible that photonic chips may be deployed, depending on how quickly the space matures. These are the kinds of things that we're really trying to take in terms of emerging technologies to endpoint devices to be able to put into machines as well as on people in order to do their mission critical events. Security with processing at scale.
So I didn't hear it. I'm going to ask the question, how is HP embracing AI?
So we are approaching AI in three ways. One, we're helping to enable the LLM or generative AI space. All of that's cloud-based right now. If you have a large enough hard drive, you could actually run ChatGPT 3.5 on your endpoint device. But that's not how generative AI, in terms of its network capability to pull down and process large language models, are going. That is, large LLMs need a lot of connectivity, but it introduces latency. There are two other domains of AI that HP is really focused on. One is machine learning on the endpoint device. That is what kind of audio, visual, and security processing can go on the endpoint device where you have close to no latency, and you can actually do things on the fly in a much different way, whether that's on some kind of missile or on a soldier. What is it that needs to go on the device in real time where you need the best things possible? The third thing, which is the second one we're really focused on, is personal productivity. We had a Microsoft question a few minutes ago. We certainly know that Google, Apple, a number of other folks are deploying what is intelligence for personal productivity. All of that processing, or at least as much as possible, should be distributed for energy consumption purposes, if nothing else. We have already deployed the capability for your laptop to go into sleep mode if you're carrying it in your backpack by having the AI connected to the accelerometer to know that the motions it is experiencing is it walking as opposed to you sitting and doing things. It is an intelligent endpoint device connected with security to be able to make sure that only the right person is able to get to it, and when it's not being used, it is in the least energy intensive way possible being able to be done. So those are three big ways. We're also deploying AI in our engineering, in our coding. GitHub meets AI, meets coding specifications, is incredible. And I'll end with this. Our sales team got an edict yesterday that all of them need to be AI certified for going out so that we can do what we really want to do, which is deploy AI for customer and end user experience. We need to make sure that your printers, your peripherals, as well as your processing devices are supported with instantaneous, or at least as limited by the speed of light, what you experience in terms of getting support and response time from your endpoint device.
Dan, you mentioned quantum technology a little earlier, but could you just give me your thoughts on quantum technology in the near future?
So HP is really focused on cryptography because our current prime number-based systems will be replaced by quantum entanglement and other quantum emergent basic physical principles as we move forward. We're a little ways away from that, but we are paying very close attention to the research that's coming out in terms of how quantum cryptography will impact endpoint device security. Second one is quantum communications. What is going to happen as the ability to encode information changes from our current protocols to those which come out. And then the third is quantum processing. Again, we're not putting quantum chips on endpoint devices, but our devices will need to be hybrid to know when to go to traditional silicon, when to go to a neural processing unit in order to do what is basically linear algebra in a much more efficient way on the endpoint device versus sending an optimization problem to the cloud, accepting the latency limitations, but getting a much faster response in the end. Our devices that you'll see rolling out in 3 to 5 years will be prepared in order to provide productivity in a quantum enhanced world. And if you think I'm talking too far over the horizon, understand that Europe, the European Union, has just announced that they will be opening up windows for anyone in the public to get access to quantum computational time in 2026, no later than 2027. It's coming. And what are we going to do in terms of what we provide our Defense Department secure devices when they're already available commercially?
Speaking of what's coming, are there any other domains where you see innovation happening?
So there's a lot. Biometrics and bioinformatics is being fed. One of the interesting things about HP, I've only been with the company a little under 2 years, is the degree to which its understanding of print is applying it to the medical fields. So one of the things that HP became best in the world at is microfluidics. Understanding the smallest possible droplet size so that that print that you wanted looks incredibly sharp, uses the least amount of ink, and stands up for the longest possible time. But our understanding of microfluidics is now changing the pharmaceutical industry. It's changing the medical device industry. What happens when we can measure the sweat from somebody who's out there, analyze it and process it in real time on devices? There are those capabilities already being deployed in the field, but we need to get better at it. This meets the security challenge, this meets bioinformatics, this meets artificial intelligence, and that's the space that HP wants to play in. It's where all these come about. Internet of Things is exponentially raising the data production. We need to be able to sort, rank order, and analyze appropriately. And one of the fun ones that I think is really interesting, because it's a machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science application, is natural language processing. What happens when you can walk up to your printer and say, I don't like the blue, I need it to be 2 shades lighter? that we actually are able to interface with devices in real time using human natural language, and it understands us. And because of the ability to do near real-time simultaneous translation, doesn't matter what language you're speaking. It's that universal translator from the Star Trek era. These bioinformatics, IoT, natural language processing are radically changing the way in which we interface with our devices. We heard about smart buildings earlier. Smart buildings need smart offices, need smart people, but those exist within enabled devices, whether you're using a 5G network or the emerging technologies that are coming out. Our devices are already preparing for the deployment of Wi-Fi 7 because that standard just got released. So we're looking at all of that. So those are some of my thoughts on this.
Dan, I can't wait to have a conversation with my printer. Thank you for that. For the folks out there who have stayed to watch us, it is now time for you to go and have something to eat. Thank you for joining us, Dan. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for discussing this with the group. Thank you all.
Thank you.